Brosplay!
Hey, welcome back. So I think I know why it is we have to do this in a rush. Do you remember the cinematic?
Yeah, he
drops them.
Yeah, he drops the bombs, and it's the only bombs that we have.
Yeah, there's only 6 bombs, and he drops all 6, and they all activate, and they have a 2-minute timer. So you have 2 minutes to get them all in. I don't even know how you're supposed to get to all of these things in 2 minutes. You're correct in coming up here, I think. Yeah. How frustrating is that, man? How much closer do you want us to be?
It's so imprecise. And then the camera is like, I have to wrestle the camera back in order to know where I'm fucking going. And then I don't have enough speed!
Oh, what the fuck?
What was it even? Oh, and then if I die, I don't reset it. Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, what about dying and resetting?
Yes. What were we talking about?
You just said if you die, you reset it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, I can't come back and try it again with partial progress like the rest of the game operates.
That's a good point. Most of the game is like that. But I guess because it's a timed mission, they felt like...
Oh my god.
Yeah.
The fucking camera.
Oh man, that was so fluid and smooth. Dude, there's no way to make that jump. You have to go down.
Why would you do that? What?
Yeah, I actually think that's the only reason you came up here. Wait, where was that other one?
Which one?
I think we went past one on the way to the one we just did.
No, it's up to the left there.
Okay.
I actually have no idea.
Those blades are weird.
Why are they there? Who saws the ground?
Yeah, and those ones. So we'll have these 2 drills, and we'll just run one at a time to save on the other drill.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they use the same hole? No, different holes.
Alternating drills, you know.
Yeah.
Like you do.
Yeah, you just, I mean, you can't just constant drill.
That would be stupid. Dude, you don't know.
So do you want this drill to like point downwards towards the ground? No. I want it to be 100% horizontal.
Yeah.
I want it to drill into what is essentially a 10-foot rock face.
But first, make a platform through the middle.
How is this place producing that much material? You see all those buckets? Just bucket after bucket after bucket of material coming out over there.
It's eco.
It's eco?
Yeah.
Doesn't look like eco. You can stand on it. You know which ones? Those buckets, the ones you have to stand on.
Oh.
They're definitely not filled with eco.
Oh yeah. Well, they had to dig this entire quarry was rock, right?
At one point, probably.
Of course it was. This is like an outcrop.
But yeah, I just don't know where this material is coming from. It's just appearing. And that's, I guess, an oven of some sort because it's orange.
I wonder if they made the voice actor actually do it as many times as he says it when you have to retry this bullshit over and over.
I know you're kidding, but you know that makes no sense, right?
No. Of course it makes sense.
So we want you to do this 46 times, just so that you have the same intensity as the player.
Well, the player would have annoyance, not intensity.
That's a good point, and I guess after
Look
46
at
takes...
all that copper. I don't want to talk to you if it means that I can't get in the portal, Vin.
Wow.
Thank you, Vin. I couldn't bring the thing with me.
I feel like we floated a little right before we
went
it
happens.
That.
It happens. Somehow Jack can... Well, actually, no, that makes sense, because Jack can double jump. Right?
Yeah, but still, I don't know, it's just weird the way he floats. Because usually the double jump, he like kicks off the air.
That's what I mean, though. If he has the ability to jump off of air, then he can also float on air.
Plot twist. Jack can actually fly full on, but he just doesn't do it because he doesn't want people to be afraid of him.
Question, though. If Jesus can walk on water, can he fly a tank on air?
I would say he could fly a tank in water.
Okay.
But I would say Jesus could do whatever he wants. Although,
yeah,
you know the theory that God can't be all powerful, right?
I don't know if we should talk about this.
No, I just meant just from a what do you call this? Paradox?
Oh,
logical paradox.
Okay.
Homer came up with the first one I've ever heard from
yes.
The Simpsons. He says, could God make something that is so heavy he himself cannot lift it?
Right.
But then the question is, which of those things can he not do?
Right.
Yeah. And just because God can't do everything doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
I don't know. I prefer to believe that God is more like a very powerful being, not necessarily an
Omnipotent?
unmeasurable, impossible creature. Perhaps he was, as Scroobius Pip would say, a curator of nature.
That is one of my favorite descriptions because I feel like that is, in a way, accurate. Whatever you choose to call God, sometimes I like to refer to gravity as God because it's what gives life to everything.
Oh.
And if you consider gravity to be the creator,
So
it is a sort of the curator of nature.
So God broke my arm when I was in elementary school.
Yes. Yes, it did.
Okay.
And God will eventually make you a couple inches shorter over the course of your life.
Yeah.
By just
by
pulling you
compressing
down.
me. Yeah. That's crazy. I love that kind of stuff where it's like over an extremely long time, this crazy thing will happen. You know?
Yeah, it's. I was thinking today about permanence when you're a kid is really permanent. You see a sign, you saw the sign yesterday, you're probably gonna see it tomorrow. If you walk up to it and hit it with something, it's strong, so that thing is quote unquote permanent to you. And when you grow up, you realize, yeah, that thing's permanent for about 20 years, maybe 30 years.
Except for that plot of land near where we used to get burgers.
Yeah, actually.
Which has been a soon-to-be-developed space for about 25 years.
And that does happen a lot, where someone has the space and doesn't have the money to develop, or they just can't get the permission to do it, and yeah, you just have this empty block of land that just sits there and sometimes gathers garbage.
A lot of people have land that is worth significantly more than their home.
Yeah, it is really interesting how, even though you buy a home, usually the home itself isn't what's costing you the money.
Oh, really?
To build a home, it definitely costs many tens of thousands of dollars, but it does not cost $1 million or $2 million to make a home they sell for that much. It's because you're getting a home in the middle of the GTA, right? That's what you're paying for. The same way in downtown Toronto. Actually, there's a development near us where you, for I think $400,000 or $500,000, you get 550 square feet. For some comparison, the house that we lived in for the last 10 years with our mom is 1,100 square feet.
Oh.
So you get half of that amount of space, and it costs $400,000 or $500,000.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a home or an apartment?
It's a townhouse.
That's how big do you think this apartment is?
This apartment here, probably 600 or 700.
So I have a bigger.
More space, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Are they multi-floored?
I think there are 2 levels, yeah.
How do you get 2 floors out of the space that this apartment takes up? Holy shit.
Well, this is how it was described to me. It is so cramped that if you don't have an end unit on your front side of your house, the only light coming in is from the door and 2 small windows.
Oh man, I didn't even think of that.
And then the back is, I assume, basically just the same. It's
That's
just so
nuts.
crazy that, you're not paying for the brick and the mortar, you're paying for where your house happens to sit.
Yeah. I almost sat in the fucking infinite space below there. I did a late roll.
I shall rest in the infinite space.
I love that you can fight these guys with the gun.
Oh shit!
Isn't that a sick angle? Or there's a sick pose?
That
for
was
him?
a sick pose. And I do like the auto aiming because you could tell when that guy died.
Yeah.
Because your auto aim turned off.
Yeah. It's so smart. So few games have ever done it.
This mission's a bit silly.
So few games.
9 days!
No. Those poor souls.
Oh man. Wait, what was his name? Do you remember?
No.
I want to say it was Robert Boyd.
What does he say?
Barbaric! May God help
Oh.
these poor souls. If you have not seen, I believe it's something Boyd, perhaps, but if you type barbaric in, I guarantee you will find the video. Hear me!
Hear me! By the way, I totally ruined your joke earlier.
What was I joking about?
No, like, it was that joke. I just want to apologize for it.
Oh, that's okay. He put such a long pause, it's hard to even tell that I was making a joke.
No, I knew you were. I don't know, I got caught up.
You jumped the gun. You got over anxious.
Well, either way, even if I had the timing, it wasn't my joke to tell. You started the joke.
'Twas not my joke to tell, for another had started.
There was something I wanted to apologize for saying in recent, like, in the past of this playthrough, and I've forgotten what it is now.
I feel like our playthroughs are somewhat, I don't want to say known for, because no one knows this at all, but I know them for your amendments.
Yeah.
There's just so many amendments, I think they're hilarious.
Thanks.
It's good. It's good.
It actually is like a serious issue for me.
Well,
And there's things that haunt me, and I like worry about things that I say all the fucking time on the show, and then I question whether it should even go out. And I never say no to it going out. It always does.
because you have to. You can't live in that fear. Well, here's an example.
I made all those jokes about racism earlier, which I'm not at all worried about. Other things I've said in this playthrough, I've been more worried about that are like the tiniest fucking thing, and I like that joke. I mean, it was pretty well obvious that it was a joke, but it still could very easily be taken as like making fun of race. Like, bro, do you think racism is a joke?
But when we do talk about things that are obvious hot buttons, race, sexuality, those types of things, we usually try to be very clear about what we're saying, and we usually make the amendments in the moment. It's the other things that you just sort of say, you don't really think about their implications. Those are the ones that kind of eat at you, right?
The way that I get over a lot of it is I just try to imagine a headline. You know, it's just like Mitch from Brosplay says like this tiny stupid thing, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, but that is actually where your thinking maybe is not so correct, because the headline won't be Mitch said this thing about racial stuff.
It would be racist.
It'll be Mitch made a racist comment.
Right.
And then people will just read the headline and think, oh crap, I didn't know Mitch was a racist. And then they'll start listening to your stuff and they'll go, oh, some of this does seem to be racially oriented. I never noticed, but maybe he is a racist. You know, that can literally happen no matter what. You don't even have to say something offensive.
Yeah, that happened to JonTron. He went on a podcast and had a very long, painful discussion about tribalism and stuff like that, and it did not come off well. It did not come off the way that he intended it, but it's hard to completely ignore it. At the same time, like, it hasn't really impacted like how I feel about him.
If you aren't willing to give someone the time to comment on something, then you have no right to judge what they said.
Absolutely.
If you will give them the time to explain what they meant and you're still not satisfied with the answer that you get back, then you're allowed to judge them on their words. But people definitely do not give that time or that opportunity.
Yeah.
People are not interested at all. People would prefer if the person was an asshole. So if you give them the opportunity to be a good person, you're sort of letting them off the hook when you could just crucify them.
Well, people want it to be really simple, right? They want to be like, fucking boycott.
And you know what? It can be simple, because you could just say, nothing happened. There's no racism. Not a problem.
Right.
And you could go home. People want both. You're right. They want a simple answer. They want a target that they can put down the range and just fire at and not have to care about.
Well, and the interesting thing is Ethan Klein from H3, who's a close friend of JonTron. His comments on that podcast are really interesting, because he says, you know, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that you said there, John, but he says it in a very nice way, and you know, like, yeah,
you're not the worst,
not hateful,
most horrible piece of shit in the world. You said some things that maybe you didn't fully think about.
Absolutely.
There's room for that.
I mean, he even admitted in the podcast that he was not well prepared for the topic at hand.
Yeah, it's not it's not like what did I think it was Ben Affleck was talking with somebody, and the person was trying to point out that there is violence written into a certain religion. I'm just not even gonna bring up what religion. And I think Ben Affleck said that he was racist and gross.
Racist and gross, yeah.
Which is just so harsh.
Yeah.
Because some people are racist and gross. I've met some of those people. And
I have too.
They're truly off-putting.
Oh, yeah.
When you meet someone that is actually honest to God racist.
It's uncomfortable, especially in like a workplace setting where you're just like, oh no, like you're not joking.
The worst is when they're trying to like goddamn recruit you. You ever had that where they say something racist and then they look straight at you as if they expect you to support what they just said?
Yeah.
Man.
I forget who it was. Actually, I don't forget who it was. I forget his name. It's because his name is very strange. But he was saying he was making a joke about how like you're agreeing with someone about something, and then like the third thing they say is so far off from what you thought they were gonna say, but you're still like kind of agreeing. Where you're like, you meet like a little old lady and she's like, lovely day, and you're like, it certainly is, and she's like, I'm waiting for the bus, and you're like, wow, okay, and she's just like says some like really outlandish shit, and you're like, for sure, no.
Well, a good example is I'm a huge fan of firearms and I really like survival training, so that when the commies invade us, I'll be the last to go. Whoa, dude.
It happened to me on the bus or waiting for the bus one time.
Oh, waiting for the bus. That must be a fantastic cross-section of society.
Yeah, it was just she was a really nice lady, and out of nowhere, it was just like 2 huge slurs in a row with like no... Like there's nothing soft about the way she said both things, and it was like in one sentence, like 2 slurs in one sentence. And it was like wide eyes, and I was like, shit, this bus cannot get here fast enough.
Yeah, it would have been better if it was here before this lady showed up. Have you ever like challenged those ideas, or do you usually just try to just avoid it?
Something I tell people that I argue with is that I only argue with people that I care about.
Yeah.
So if I'm fighting you on something, it's because I genuinely want to change your opinion about something, and not try to upset you. And I usually like point it out. I'll be like, have you ever heard me talk to this guy? No. I'm like, yeah. That's because I don't give a shit about that person. I don't give a fuck what that person has to say at the end of the day. So if I argue with you, it's probably because I care about you or your impact on someone that I care about, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
But that hasn't happened in a very long time. So.
Have you ever encountered someone who is really racist that they just don't? It's almost like they don't even recognize others aren't racist.
They think everyone else is on the same.
Well, they assume
wavelength.
that their racist assumption is fact.
Oh,
have you ever met those types of people?
Absolutely.
I just don't understand how someone, and I'm not going to say anyone living today, but people who have had a general level of exposure to media, social media, and entertainment. How do you have exposure to those things and still have the notion that skin color separates people into different groups?
Well,
I understand there's cultural differences and there's even biological differences, things with diseases and, athletic performance, so on and so forth. But how can you have been around and seen all these things and still just be like, oh yeah, those black people, they're not us, they're the other? What?
All right, first of all, allow me to applaud you for tackling this topic in in today's violent social media culture.
Climate.
I appreciate that. But I think the issue is that they're not seeing the same stuff that we're seeing. They're seeing stuff that's very specifically designed for them.
Yeah, have you ever watched Fox News?
It's part of I'm just gonna ignore that. It's part of fucking sakes.
You should die, dude.
There's no fucking health in here.
Yeah, there's no health in most of this game.
There's no health. There's health all the time. What are you talking about? There's just no health in this place. In a level where I'm being shot at by invisible fucking enemies.
So sorry, what were you saying?
Oh yeah, they're watching echo chamber kind of style things, or what do they call that? Gratification or something like that.
Yeah, I think echo chamber is a big one. Mutually assured gratification. I don't know. I've never.
No,
never
it's
really
it's
heard
when
that.
like, it's when. Holy shit.
Yeah, this is a smorgasbord.
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 Fuck.
Oh my god. That actually reminded me of that scene from Saving Private Ryan. Just, nope, gun's not working. Need a shotgun.
No fucking health, eh?
Get me my shotgun.
Oh yeah, no, and part of it is that, like, there are still people who are really not into social media. Like I recently met a girl younger than me who barely knew anything about computers or the internet.
Whoa.
Had almost no like, had seen YouTube videos occasionally from some other people, but never had pursued it herself. Barely understood how to operate a computer. So like,
whoa.
She was a cool person, but she very easily could have been, her opinion on things could have been very easily swayed without that element, you know?
Yeah, I guess it's a good point. People all have their own particular types of entertainment, and if your circles keep leading you down that path, you know, there's nothing that's going to take you out of it.
Yeah.
I think some people also conflate individuals that live in either a particular region or of a particular culture with individuals of a certain skin tone, because those things don't associate. You don't have a culture because you're black.
Right.
You generally are part of a culture, and people that come from that culture are predominantly black.
Right.
So,
but
yeah.
you'll also, and then you'll usually find, like, there's always that dude who is a completely different ethnicity in the same culture.
Well, and look at white people. There is massive differences between white people that live in North America, white people that live in Europe, and then there's even subsets within Europe that get a little funky.
Dude, there's subsets within...
Subsets, yeah.
Yeah, like there are places in England where you can... There's a guy who can, like... He knows where you've lived to the street based on your accent.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
It is.
And that also can only happen in a place that has as much history as Europe does, or Africa.
Are you saying we don't have a lot of history here, brother?
No, we don't.
Are you saying fur hat trading and Jason Momoa running around murdering people is not history?
It is.
You know, Jason Momoa is executive
in
producing.
Frontier?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You actually knew the show name. I didn't even know that.
I didn't actually know that was about the fur trade, but that's actually.
It's not about the fur trade.
Is it set in that era though?
Yeah.
Well, then that's pretty cool. I actually might watch that. I thought it was set in like a mythical era.
It is really bad.
Oh.
It is really bad.
Oh, never mind that.
Like, my goodness, Jason.
Jason. What are you doing, Jason?
You almost turned into the costume lady from Incredibles. Jason.
No capes.
Listen, Jess. No, it's. I mean, my standard for television. It's not so much a standard, actually. It's more of a preference, I should say. Standard makes me sound pretty fucking douchey. It's just on a different level. It's a very light show.
Yeah, I do actually find that I have that issue suggesting TV to people. Because there's some people who their favorite television shows are, you know, seasons 3 and 4 of Heroes rather than seasons 1 of Heroes. Oh, I was going to say seasons 1 and 2, but 2 was...
2 was weird.
Yeah, 2 was very weird.
Not well thought through.
But there are people who prefer what I call soft TV.
Actually, I call it that. You got that from me.
Okay.
It's actually on an episode. When I said you and your girlfriend might enjoy it, it's actually soft TV, and you're like, that's a good word for it.
There you go. So I guess I must have adopted it.
I'm really good at remembering, like, when I should be credited for things. So.
You are. Because sometimes I'll tell you shit you told me.
It goes the other way too.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a circle of life. It just always happens. But soft TV, for me at least, is only for background noise. If I'm doing something and I just don't want it to be quiet. But even then, I find, like, if you want soft TV, you might as well just watch Brosplay. Because it's background noise, it keeps you entertained, it's
Right,
dynamic,
and then out
there's
of
sound
nowhere
and
you're in the
movement.
middle of a complicated conversation about race and politics.
Well, exactly. I think that soft TV is a way to turn your brain off.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
there
no,
are
no.
shows that ride the borderline, so some of those end up being good in the end.
I've ruined shows for Dad like that.
By
He's
pointing out
he's
how
"Have you-"
basic they are.
Yeah,
or-
he's like, have you seen this show? It's like, it's really good. And I'm like, that is a terrible show. The acting is horribly cardboard and there's no storyline whatsoever. And then like a month later, he's like, I can't watch that show anymore.
Oh no, it happens. There are some shows that I'm surprised by. An example is The 100.
Oh,
Nothing
it keeps
about
surprising
that.
me.
Nothing about that show should be good, but it is.
Yeah, it's like it was supposed to be soft, and the writers just never let it be soft. They were like, no, hardship, death, destruction.
It just feels like when they're writing, they tried to think about what makes the most sense more than what makes the most sense for their screenplay. And I think that
yeah, okay.
that is the big difference between Game of Thrones season 6 and 7. One is written for what makes sense in this world. The first 6 seasons are. And then the 7th season is written for what makes most sense for the show. And
Yeah.
that is why everything changed.
I've never seen such a dramatic difference between seasons, other than season 4 of Letterkenny. There's something happened with the writing. I don't know what happened, but it's like,
It just changed?
it's like I think, whoa!
4. 4?
I have to finish this because I won't finish it next time. Yeah, season 4 of Letterkenny. Just like, it's like they didn't understand what was so good about the previous season, and they thought like the repetition of the show was what made it funny. But like the reason why it's funny was because the repetition fit. Whereas like the 4th season is like almost immediately you can like feel a difference. That's like it came out on Christmas Day of 2017, and I was excited too. I was like, oh, what a nice little thing for me to do on Christmas Day. This is my favorite show. And it was like an immediate change.
You just noticed, eh?
And I was like, what the fuck happened? And I watched the entire season because I didn't want to like say that it was bad or anything.
Yeah, you
and-
didn't want to half-ass it.
and I finished the whole thing, and I was like, man, like, there were some really good elements to it, but something happened with the writing. Like, someone just missed. It's what happened with Ratchet and Clank. The second game was like, they very quickly demonstrated to me that they just didn't ever want what they made in the first game. At no point.
To me, the entirety of a TV show is about suspension of disbelief. Whether it is comedy, drama, or otherwise, it is always about suspension of disbelief because you're watching a show. So even if you're watching a show that is about people who act on a show, you need to believe that those characters are actors on this mythical show. You don't want to be constantly reminded that they're real actors acting in a real show.
Right.
It sucks away from the entertainment value. And I feel like some shows do an amazing job at that. One show that I really like as a comedy, even though it has a laugh track, is The Ranch.
Oh,
Because every single one of those characters feels 100% real.
I couldn't quite get into it, but I know what you mean. It did get me surprisingly happy.
It's more of a feel-good show than it is an actual comedy. The comedy is very dry. But when the characters react to something like a life decision, nothing about it feels unrealistic. Nothing about the way that their family members respond to them feels unrealistic. Whereas when you watch most shows, you can feel the writing, even in good shows.
Right.
You can feel it. It's just it's
One show that's like so amazingly consistent is Seinfeld. Like there's
Oh my
times where
God.
you tell me the concept to an episode, and I'm like, "That's a Seinfeld episode." Like it's totally a Seinfeld episode. Like you said, have you heard? Or have you seen the episode where George leaves on a good note? And I'm like, "That's has to be a Seinfeld episode." That is so
it's such a George move too.
perfectly encapsulates like. I don't like that word.
I would say that Seinfeld is probably one of my favorite comedies of all time. I still have a soft spot for Friends because I used to watch it so much when we were young.
They play it at a store nearby, and I walk by it and see it.
And honestly, it's kind of a terrible show.
The characters are pretty terrible.
That's the problem. The only good characters that I can really think of, and even then they have some serious issues in some episodes. Monica and Chandler are the only good characters.
Yeah, everyone else is a bit of an asshole.
Maybe Joey, but Chandler, sorry. Ross, Rachel, and Phoebe are all fucking assholes. And that is not an overstatement at all.
Which one fakes their death?
Ross.
Yeah.
He was hit by a blimp. Which I think is perfect payback. If you're gonna fake, or actually, you know what? He did not fake his own death. Chandler said that he died.
Oh.
Because Ross made some sort of a joke about him, and so Chandler's response was to say that he died in a blimp accident. Now, where Ross becomes the asshole is he did not tell people. He let people actually show up to his funeral.
Oh, to see who did.
When a girl shows up to his funeral and talks about how she had a crush on him, he just, like, comes storming out of the bedroom, and he's like, I'm not dead. And she justifiably leaves like a normal person would.
Yeah.
And Ross does that stuff all the time. He is honestly, he has
yeah.
anger management issues. Someone pointed out that he has a son for the majority of the show, and his son shows up in about 9 or 10 episodes total. So clearly he's spending very little time with his son. And then he has a daughter.
Does he?
Yeah, Emma. He has a daughter with Rachel.
What?
Yeah, Ross is actually the worst. Rachel follows him very quickly because she's super shallow and incredibly rude. But Ross is actually just a mean jerk sometimes.
Have you seen the video? Like it's called like Ross with no laugh track equals psychopath.
Yeah.
It's the one where he's like, "You ate my sandwich."
I haven't actually seen that, but I'm just thinking about it. If there was no one laughing, Ross would actually have serious problems.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Seinfeld is so great, because the characters do similar things to the characters in Friends, but their motivations are different. You know, George's character is the worst.
Yeah, he's pretty
But
awful.
it's always built in with this strong element of comedy. Ross does not always have strong comedy. Sometimes he's just an asshole.
He also, like, for some reason his comedy comes from, like, it's hard to describe. It's like I have an oily T-zone. It's like, what is funny about that? Like, I'm laughing, but is it actually, like, is it just
Ross is supposed to be all of the things that are wrong with people.
Oh, is that why we like him?
That's why we laugh at him, because it's like, oh, ha ha, too bad for you kind of thing. I think that's why. But that's why Seinfeld is so much better, because Seinfeld is based around premises. Friends is not. Friends is based around drama.
Yep.
Even though it's a comedy, it is fully based around drama. You know, will they, won't they, are they going to get married? Are you on team Ross and Rachel? Or, you know, like all that crap. Seinfeld, every episode was just something funny. The yada, yada, yada. The one with the pumpernickel, or what was it? I don't even remember what bread it was, but he has the bread on the end of the fishing pole trying to sneak it into the house. Have you seen that one? No. I think it's a marble rye. That's what it is. It's a marble rye, and he steals a marble rye from like his girlfriend's parents, and then in order to replace it, because I think they ate it, Jerry has to go and steal a marble rye from this old lady because there's none left. So he steals the marble rye from her, and then he goes to the place, but George can't get it upstairs because the parents are in the kitchen. So he's got it on this fishing line, and he's trying to bring it into the bedroom, and at that very moment, the parents walk in with the daughter. And he uses that story later on to, like, win him points. Because he's trying to get an apartment, and he's going against someone who is on a boat that sank. And so, you know, there's this, like, review board to decide who's going to get the apartment. And this guy says, but I was on this boat and it sank. And George says, I heard the boat took 4 hours to sink. Sort of more like an old man sinking down into his hot tub. And then he says, no, my friends, if you want to know real suffering, let me tell you a story. And then he starts telling literally every story, like just one at a time. They don't show them all, but he's like, and there I was with a marble rye on the end of a fishing line. At the end of it, the lady's crying. The people who are doing the interview, she's in tears because of all these horrible stories.
See, that's real fucking comedy, because I'm laughing when you just tell me the story. The ideas on their own are hilarious, and then when you perfectly execute it, it's even better.
And it was so well done, because Jerry is a comedian, and they didn't have to hide that fact. They didn't pretend that Jerry is, oh, he does, he's a seller or a buyer, or, he's an exporter. Like, they didn't have to give him a random job. They just said, he's Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian.
Yeah.
Which is perfect. And they used to open the skits with, or the episodes with the least funny jokes in the world.
Yes.
I love those. They were so bad, but they just set the stage for, real comedy.
We have prolonged this episode far too long, brother.
We have.
On excellent conversation, though, so no fault.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
This is no fault Let's Playing.
No fault Let's Playing. I don't think that lady would agree with you. You just mowed her down.
The dead can't disagree, brother. Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this speed? I'm going as fast as a fucking car.
I wonder if that girl would be crushed or not, because you didn't land on her.
We've already had this conversation.
We did? With vehicles?
Yeah, with like propulsion and downward force.
But it's a hoverboard, bro.
Anyway, thank you for joining us. I've actually been enjoying this a lot.
Yeah, next time, sick tricks, bro.